Hello and welcome to the Marketing Maven and More podcast, where we dive into the nuts and bolts of marketing and get real about the highs and lows of running a business. I'm your host, Charique Richardson, and I'm ready to talk and spark conversations that matter to you. Okay, so let's get started and let's make some magic happen together. So today we're joined by Ashley Falletta, who is a ghostwriter and content strategist. So Ashley, I'm going to give you a chance to just introduce yourself and tell us all about you.
Thanks, Charique. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so excited to talk to you about all of the goodness of copywriting, especially for websites. I'm Ashley Falletta, and I am a ghostwriter, content strategist, and the founder of Pros Creative Studio. And we're a boutique writing agency that helps founders turn their big ideas into words with purpose in their marketing.
Awesome, awesome. So, first of all, you and I, we know each other from a
We
coaching
do.
program. So this is like we kind of got reunited on LinkedIn. So, I happened to see your post and I was like, oh, this is great as Ashley. So we just reconnected right when I was starting back my podcast. So this is a podcast that's been like, I would say just I mean, what's the word I'm trying to find? Reincarnated.
Reignited.
Yeah. Reignited. Yeah, because I had it before around COVID time and it kind of stepped away from it, but I really love to do it. I love the conversations that I have with other business owners. And so it's just really good to reconnect with you and come together to talk about websites. Of course, that's what my business does. We do bespoke web design, and that's what we specialize in for service providers. And so it just makes sense, perfect sense for you and I to come together today to talk about copywriting because it's not just design, which is important, but also that content that speaks to your ideal client. So definitely I want to talk to you about like how you got started with this and why you're so passionate about it and just kind of share like a personal story about how you really got into doing more copywriting versus I know when we first started this, everybody was on the online space trying to do coaching, right? Everybody wanted to be a
Mhm.
coach. But how did you merge to copy?
Yes, absolutely. So that's a great question. I actually started off doing social media management. I
Hmm.
actually think I helped you with
Okay.
a little bit of your social media
Yes,
as
we worked
well
together.
back in
Uh-huh. Oh gosh.
2017, I think, a
Yes.
long,
Yeah.
long time ago. So I started
I call it the
off
Stone Ages.
the Stone Ages. I love that.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I started off in social media and I realized, and I've always been a writer since I was a little girl, I wanted to tell stories. And I realized how
Hmm.
important it was as I kept on diving into the world of social media, how
Hmm.
storytelling was taking the whole digital landscape by storm. So ever since I was a little girl, I wanted to tell these stories. So it really was natural that I gravitated towards the creative arts and creative writing. So I actually, when I was younger, I started off writing poetry, which is where Prose Creative Studio comes from.
Hmm.
So prose is like a poetic form that's like narrative and follows the natural flow of language. So I
Hmm.
like to bring that into copywriting because copywriting, it's words that sell your stuff through nurturement and engaging
Hmm.
storytelling. So that's how I started out. You know, um, went from social media. I did a little bit of video marketing and just realized how much storytelling was so important
Yes.
to capture the attention of your audience and to
Hmm.
nurture and to engage them and eventually convert them into loyal customers.
Yes, I do remember that in a lot of the training and the coaching that we went through
Yeah.
was like the buzzword storytelling, like to
Oh,
make
yeah.
sure your content is telling a story, but also bringing out some authenticity too about who you are, because
Hmm.
everybody was typically putting out, great value, but we didn't really know who these people were,
Hmm.
right? A lot of them didn't want to peel back that curtain and talk about like, this is how I got here. This is my brand story, this is
Hmm.
what I do differently, and this is how I help my clients. And so, but that's, what storytelling does. It really helps to pull out the important parts of who you are, what your business does, and who you help. And it brings that connection to your clients. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, so we talk about like web design because one thing with me, as I was telling you when we talked before, that is always the biggest delay in the web design process is that a lot of times clients like, oh yeah, well, we'll just use the same content from last time if I'm doing a website over. Or if it's a brand new website, we work with them to kind of help them steer them in the right direction, but that's always the biggest block for clients. So explain like as far as your process when you try to go through and help clients move through that process. Because a lot of times they they know what they know, of course, they're experts in their business, but how do you pour that out of them, particularly on website copy, to get them to really open up and really just share that value so people can connect when they get to the website?
Yeah. So when it comes to writing your website, there are just like a few words of wisdom that I like to impart on my clients. So
Mhm.
the first one is the most important. We talk about
Mhm.
storytelling, but ultimately, you are not the hero of the
Yes.
story. I
Yes.
was certified in the story brand framework for about 4 years by Donald
Mhm.
Miller. He wrote the book Building a Story Brand. And our
Mhm.
philosophy was to position yourself not as the hero, but as the guide and your target audience as the hero. So you are
Yes.
the guide that is taking them on this beautiful story arc that it transforms them with your services and products.
Mhm.
So, anything that you write needs to be centered around helping them survive and helping them thrive and helping them save the day, but or helping them win the day, but they need to trust you as well. So there's a really fine balance
Mhm.
about you don't want to talk about yourself, but you also have to, get them to trust you and know you a little bit.
Yes.
So
Yes.
as a copywriter, I like to maintain that balance and make sure that we're telling the story of the customer, but also telling the story of the guide as well.
Mhm. Absolutely. But that's one thing I say in my talks. Like, it's not about you. I did a
Mm-mm.
website over when I was at Duke, and the first thing they talked about was the doctors and how their expertise and all these great things. But I'm thinking in the mind of a patient, or if I'm a caregiver for a patient, that's nice that you went to MIT, but I want to know, can you help me? Can you help my loved one?
Hmm.
So that was one of the first things that I had to take away. And we brought in a content strategist because I was like, no, we can't have this. This is all about you guys. It's not about
Hmm.
the people you help. So that's so important. Getting into like the resiliency of this, because I know a lot of times, as I said before, a lot of times clients are kind of like blocked. There's a content block. And I know that we know about this because back when you and I were doing this, the whole thing about even social media was about 3 times a day, 7 days a week, saturate the market. But people are like, well, I don't even know what to say that many times a day. I don't even know what to do. And the same thing with the website. It's like, I don't even know how to begin. I know you mentioned as far as this, you're not the hero, but what is like one little practical tip that you can give that shows like this is how you can honestly show like a good hook, or how to create a good hook, or how to get people in? Because the whole purpose like of a website, as you know, is to convert, to get people to take an action, to schedule an appointment, to read your blogs and really grow that connection with you. And so what's a great practical tip that you would also give for clients who are just kind of blocked and they just don't know what to do when they're trying to really figure out what they want to say on their websites?
Oh, that is a great question to start with. So we do need to know their pain points. And so I like to split their pain points into
Mhm.
three different layers. So you have your internal pain point, which is how you're feeling. How is that target client, that ideal client
Mhm.
feeling about the problem that they're having? What is that
Mhm.
emotional problem? And then there is the outside pain point. So what around them is stopping them or is their obstacle? They're
Right.
frustrated because they're frustrated, which is the internal,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
their market is oversaturated. That is
Yes.
their outside pain point. And then
Mhm.
they have a little bit of that belief. What is their doubt? What is the how what is their philosophical doubt about what is going on with them internally and
Mhm.
externally. So, really honing in on knowing not just how they're feeling. Oh, they're frustrated. Okay, we know they're
Yeah.
frustrated, but
Mhm.
why are they frustrated?
Right.
Why is it wrong that they're frustrated? So, when you really get that down, then you're going to think of the identity transformation.
Mhm.
You want to take them from one point of the bridge to the other, to the promised land. So
Mhm.
they are in, the depths of hell right here, right? So they're like, they're really feeling a horrible
Yes.
feeling right now. They have this, whether it is web design, whether it is
Mhm.
a hair product, whether it is medicine, like you were just talking about, they're in a really bad place
Yes.
according to their own personal beliefs. Your service and products are going to take them over the bridge and put them to the promised land. So, going from surviving to thriving, going from um, confused to clarity. These are really basic
Yes.
words, but you want to get those buzzwords in, those honest buzzwords, so you can use those in your copy. And finally, we think of something called the controlling idea. So, what is
Hmm.
the whole point of your business?
Hmm.
So, I talk about, uh, I'm trying to think of, my whole point of my business is words with purpose.
Yes.
So elevating your brand with words with purpose. So that is the whole point. We want to elevate because they're feeling
Hmm.
really down, right? So
Hmm.
we want to elevate. And how am I doing it? I'm doing it with
Hmm.
words with purpose. And then
Right.
underneath that little, so we do this on, and I'm sure you explain this, the hero banner. So once you get
Hmm.
to a website, you have that hero banner, which is,
Hmm.
that big picture, that big top part that's right above the
Right.
scroll. We want that controlling idea, and we want to put the emotion in there. We want to put your services
Hmm.
in there. You want to put put just all of that in one line, one or two
Yes.
lines, and then
Yeah.
have a picture of that identity transformation. So
Yes.
not just a picture of a keyboard or a picture of a cup of coffee. So you want to have either a stock image or an image of yourself if you're a personal brand of the ideal client
Hmm.
in the promised land. Right. So I don't
Yes.
know, I don't know how you feel about that, but that's
Yeah.
how I like to do it visually,
Hmm.
and how I would suggest to do it visually and also using the words. So you're marrying those two very important
Hmm.
parts of a website.
Yes, I totally agree with that because I'm actually in my header. That's very
Hmm.
important real estate. And I say this all the time because that's really, it seems complicated, but it really is very easy. You want to make an impact because I always say this, you have 2 seconds, less than 2 seconds to make an impact before people leave your website. Now, there's other
Hmm.
factors with that too, site speed and, images and whatnot, but it's very important that that content hooks them in immediately so that they can know, okay, well, let me go look and see what else you have to say because you
Yes.
got my attention now. So
Yes.
that's key real estate on all websites is that you must hook them in that first view of your site. So yes, I do agree with that.
Yeah, so a good
Yeah.
way to do this
Mhm.
is a little test that Donald Miller had actually taught us in the Story Brand community. And I still like to use it today. It's called the grunt test. So if
Mhm.
you go to a website
Mhm.
and it's kind of like a caveman, like
Okay.
I like I feel this, you do
Mhm.
this, you help me, feel that, like
Mhm.
it's just, you have to say like, you feel this, I do this, I help
Mhm.
you feel this, right? So it's just
Got
kind of
you.
like, if you can grunt out what the point
Mhm.
is, then you've really done your job.
Mhm.
So the magic of the copywriting is really using those purposeful words, taking all of these ideas and putting it into that hook, that header image, that
Yeah.
hero, or that header section, that hero section.
Mhm.
So that's where the magic comes in, but you have to have those pain points. You have to have those the emotion. You have to have what your
Yes.
services are. How many people have come to me and say, write my website, what are your services? I'm not sure. Right.
Oh
So
my
of
gosh,
course you have
yes.
to be so sure of how
Yes.
you are bringing them over the bridge to the promised land. So
Mhm.
making sure you have all of these pieces in place and
Yeah.
then put them into that controlling idea.
Yeah, and you said something that sparked something because a lot of times people hire or want to hire and they don't really know what they want. It's funny you say that because there's another service provider who talked about how she let a client go because the person just wanted someone to do something for them, but they had no proof of concept. They had no
Mhm.
idea if their service even helps anyone. They just wanted it done and that was it. And they just wanted to run with it and sell a
Mhm.
program. But no, as we were taught, you have to do your market research. You have to make sure you know your ideal client down to what they had for breakfast yesterday.
Yeah.
You have to know everything before you can go and hand something off to someone else because you're not a musician. I'm not a magician either. You have to work with us. It's a very collaborative process. And it's
Mhm.
not a set and forget type of thing because if you work with any of us, you're going to have some type of intake where we're going to ask you some deep dive questions. So, yes, I'm glad you mentioned that because it's so important that you really know who it is that you want to target because that's part of what you do. You help them speak all the way down to that person directly to them to get their attention and to pull them in. And that's good, especially for website copy. I mean, obviously we're talking about SEO and things like that nature. Someone can go to their website and see, okay, this person is speaking to me. They know my pain points. They obviously have done their research. They know exactly the way to get me to from problem to solution. So yes, that is very important. I just wanted to, interject on that because yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're not coaches. I mean, we could be coaches, but that's not
Yeah,
what you're hiring us for,
right. We can coach you,
right?
but that's not what you're asking us to do for you right now. Yes.
Right. So you're going to hear probably buzzwords about messaging on social
Yes.
media, on podcasts. Your messaging has to be absolutely pristine
Yes.
before you design your website, before you write your copy. So this messaging about, again, the pain points, your controlling idea, your identity transformation. How are you positioning yourself as an authority figure, but also an empathetic
Hmm.
figure? So,
Right.
authority figure, your accolades, your credentials, your podcast interviews, your testimonials. So, you don't have
Hmm.
to gone to Harvard to be an authority, but having those concrete those concrete things to show that you are an expert in your field, but
Hmm.
also an empathetic guide. You
Yes.
often
Yes.
see this, depending if you're a personal brand or if you're a brick and mortar or service provider, you often see this showing up in the phrase "I know how you feel." We
Hmm.
understand your pain. We've
Yes.
been there before.
Hmm.
That usually really hooks them in. So
Yes.
mixing those like salt and pepper, the authority and the empathy, all of the feels, you are going to have a beautiful bio section, guide section. We call it the guide section, like farther down, like maybe a little bio about yourself.
Hmm.
That mixture of empathy and authority, oh my goodness, that is the perfect mixture
Yeah, it's
to put
so
on there.
important because I mean, a lot of times, sometimes our ideal client is some aspect of ourselves.
Mm,
And so, like, for instance, if you are a family attorney and you've been there, you've been through divorce, you can relate to what your client's going through. You can even anticipate some of the feelings. And so it's important for that to come out that I've been there. I know exactly what you've been through. And this is
mhm,
what got me out. So, this is how I can help you get out because I've been there. And
mhm.
so, would you say that sometimes, you find that a lot of people can relate a lot to the people that they're trying to target? And so, I guess it all depends on obviously what business,
I do.
sometimes, yeah.
I do, but I will say that I have come across some people that balk at this, which is totally fine because
Hmm.
a lot of people, myself included, we don't want to trauma dump,
Hmm.
right? You don't want
Yeah.
to, you see those influencers on social media who are crying on their Instagram reels
Yeah.
and airing all their dirty laundry. You do not have to do that. You just need to make that connection.
Yeah.
I've been there. I understand. I know this is important to you. And
Hmm.
please put a pin in this phrase. You deserve to feel dot dot dot.
Yes.
Saying those words, I know that you deserve to achieve X, Y, and Z,
Hmm.
have a great website, have this, and that.
Hmm.
Feel that phrase, I know that you deserve to dot dot dot. I always say that tips the scales. They're like, oh goodness, thank
Yeah.
gosh, someone understands me. And yes, I do deserve that. So that
Yeah.
phrase, put a pin in
Yeah.
it because I love to use it in copywriting.
It's empowering. It makes that person
Hmm.
feel like, sometimes they may feel that they don't. And
Right.
so you're giving them that validation that yes,
Hmm.
you do deserve that. So I think that's very powerful.
Hmm.
Okay, so I'll be remiss if I didn't talk about AI. It's something that
Oh,
I use every single day, and I know that in your field, you hear so many people who may feel like, oh well, I don't need to do that. I can just go to ChatGPT. I can go to
hmm.
Jasper or Claude. Talk about how that's affecting, your niche. What steps are you taking as far as do you use AI or what is your whole and
Hmm.
overall impression of AI?
Yes. So AI can be great. AI
Hmm.
has shortened a lot of our time of working, streamlined a lot of things. I personally don't enjoy using it for output. So what I do
Hmm.
use it for is productivity. So if
Hmm.
I'm having a meeting with a client and I will record it
Hmm.
and I will feed it into Jasper is what I use, and I will
Hmm.
ask to pull brand voice, pull
Yeah.
pain points, pull keywords, pull
Hmm.
buzzwords. Using it for productivity I mean, the words are right there, the writing's on the
Yeah.
wall. We have the transcript, and it's helping a
Hmm.
little bit pull those brand voice and those important things like pull quotes. What is a
Right.
powerful pull? What is a powerful quote that this client said in this meeting? And then you can use it directly in your copy. The whole
Hmm.
the whole thing is you want the copy to sound like you.
Yes.
So if you
Yes.
can use a tool that is going to help the copywriter or yourself put
Hmm.
it out there, that and use it in the copy. Why not use it? So,
Right.
AI is tough. And I am an author as well and work with a lot of authors, and there's a lot of discourse because AI does scrape other people's work. So
Hmm.
there is a concern that if you use AI for your writing, you could be potentially stealing from other people's websites. And
Right.
then not only is that ethically wrong, but you're competing
Absolutely.
with yourself. You're competing with your SEO. You're competing with another person that
Hmm.
is potentially saying the same thing that you are. So there's like a morals thing. There's an ethical
Hmm.
discourse to that. But with productivity, using things like Grammarly, using Grammarly, I love. I mean, there are some. I'm a
Yes.
writer, but I'm not perfect.
Right.
I'm
Right.
not
That's, yeah.
perfect with my
Hmm.
punctuation or whatever, just to make sure you are on point with everything. It's correctly written. You're
Hmm.
having the right tenses. Copywriters are not perfect. We love words, but there are
Yeah.
some things that that escape us. So using Grammarly is great. Using
Yes.
Fireflies, and we were just
That's, yeah.
talking about.
Hmm.
I use Fireflies for my transcription program, and so if we were running it right now, it would probably write your show notes for you. It would say, or like,
Hmm.
export your show notes saying these were the key points that Ashley and Charique talked about. There are great tools out there. I
Yeah.
just encourage you to write your own words, really
Yes.
dig deep. And if you feel like you're having writer's block or this is not my jam, this is not something that is my forte, I need to outsource, contact somebody like me,
Hmm.
contact Charique and say, do you know any copywriters?
Yes.
Or get some tips on YouTube. I have, a YouTube channel that have a couple of videos up there right about writing about copywriting. There are other ways to get great copy without
Hmm.
using a machine. And you want to
Right.
sound human. That's the whole point of this, is that you want to
Mhm.
sound like yourself.
Yes, and it's so important because I know that a lot of people, of course, I love to use it. And I'm now getting into like building my own GPTs so that I
That's cool.
can, increase my productivity. And that's really what corporate's been doing for years anyway, saving
Hmm.
time, saving money. And now really adding to that, making money. Because if this is handling all your, automated, redundant tasks, now you can focus more on putting yourself out there, which will increase your revenue. So for
Hmm.
me, and plus, Grammarly is like my go-to. It's from
Hmm.
chat to Grammarly. So that's kind of where I go. And also I love Descript because
Hmm.
they do that kind of transcription type of thing. And they will help you as far as put together like your notes and whatnot. And so I do see it for productivity sake and giving
Hmm.
me something to edit because
Yes.
I would find that like I had a VA who was just going through and just giving me a bunch of chat stuff and I was rewriting all of it. And I was
Hmm.
like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So yeah, and who needs that? So I'm like, no, let me just go ahead. And yes, you can train it, you can do all those things with it, but like you said, it's using what it gives. Basically, the more it's being fed, it's going to spit out.
Right.
Exactly that. So originality is something that still leaves a lot of opportunity for content writers that you have original content, it's authentic, and it is still branded to the client. And that's important
Hmm.
for people to know that,
Yes,
because I
absolutely.
don't think a lot of people know what you just said, that
Hmm.
it's just basically just going on the internet and just grabbing from this place and that place. It could be someone's blog. It could be
Hmm.
anything.
Hmm.
I actually
Hmm.
saw someone send out an email almost word for what chat gave me. And I
Oh
was
my
like,
goodness.
oh my gosh, thank God I didn't use that
Yeah.
because it was the exact same, almost verbatim. So
That's
you have,
scary.
it
Yeah.
is. And then you put that out there and people are thinking that, oh, this is something that, you think is original. Then they see it over here somewhere else and they're looking at you like, wait a minute, what's going on? So that you
Mm-hmm.
automatically lose that authenticity, and plus your brand is now not looking too good. It's not looking too
Mm-hmm.
hot right now. And it's not going to make
Mm-hmm.
someone want to invest in you. So
Right.
I'm glad you made that point. Because I mean, like I
Great
said, I'm
conversation.
yes, because I mean, I love AI. I was the early adopter. I even taught on it. But I always say this, that human oversight is something that is always going to be needed, because you're always going to need a human to come in and make those corrections, because it's not perfect.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It can cut your time down, but it's not perfect to where it's actually going to write a novel for
Mm-hmm.
you. You're going to have to be
Oh,
ready to
some
go.
people try.
Oh yeah, I'm
Some people
sure.
try.
I'm
It's
sure. And it's
it's
like,
wild. Yeah.
and that same novel is probably being sold somewhere else across the world or across the country, almost
Mm-hmm.
written verbatimly, verbatim, exactly in those same words. So you have to
Mm-hmm.
go over it. You can't just take it at what it tells you. And it does tell you itself that I'm not 100%. I make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's telling you this.
Right.
So you just can't trust your content for that. Because I know that that's something that's really big with content writers, and people are thinking, oh, I can just do it myself. I can just run chat and do all this
Mm-hmm.
content. But if that's not your gift and it's not your skill, then you need to really either take your course, hire you, or whatever you do, and be able to work with someone that can really pull out those questions, like you said, those emotions and pain points and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, so I appreciate you for being here. I appreciate this conversation. It was so good to reconnect with you.
Yeah.
And anyone who's listening to this, if you're a business owner and you're struggling with content, I invite you to definitely reach out to Ashley, especially for your website, because that is the number one delay that we get when we're doing websites, is the content, because so many clients are scrambling. Make it easy. Ashley and I definitely can work together and give you a beautiful website that converts, because that's really what this is all about. It's not just having a beautiful site. Yes, that's important. It's important that it loads fast and all the stuff I talk about with websites, but the content is what's really going to reel people in as well. Then, in addition to just the visual part of it, so we definitely can speak on that, and we've seen that in our work. So, if you have any questions, just pop those in the comments, either for myself or for Ashley. Don't forget to like and follow. Follow myself, and I will have Ashley's links so where you can get her information. Ashley, why don't you go ahead and tell us where we can find you? But we're also going to have this also in the show notes as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait to connect with all of you. You can find me on LinkedIn. It's my name, Ashley Falletta. Uh, I almost started like spelling it like I was at the doctor's office.
I know.
Oh, two L's, two T's.
Yes. You imagine me
Oh,
trying my first name, so I get it.
also on Instagram, Ashley Falletta. And so that's basically where I hang out. I also have follow if you want to follow my publishing journey, Ashley Falletta Writes on Instagram and on Threads, and also the same name, Ashley K. Falletta on Threads as well. That's a little bit of my playground. So you'll see a little bit of my personality come out
Oh,
on those
yes. I
accounts.
love
But
threads.
yeah, come and connect with me. And I'm really
Mhm.
excited that we were able to have this conversation.
Absolutely. So important. Thank you all for tuning in, and look for our next episode. Thank you, Ashley, again.
Thank you.